On September 29, 2025, Madagascar's President Andry Rajoelina announced the dissolution of the national government following a wave of deadly protests that have rocked the country over the past week. The unrest, primarily led by young demonstrators, has resulted in at least 22 confirmed deaths and over 100 injuries, marking one of the deadliest episodes of civil unrest in Madagascar in recent years. The protests erupted on September 25 in the capital city of Antananarivo, sparked by long-standing issues such as power shortages, water scarcity, and the perceived failure of the government to address basic public needs. Young citizens, particularly from the Gen Z demographic, have been at the forefront of the demonstrations, expressing frustration over persistent infrastructure failures and economic hardships that have plagued the nation for years. Crowds of protesters filled the streets, chanting slogans demanding accountability, better access to essential services, and reforms in governance. Inspired by similar movements in other countries, including Kenya and Nepal, the youth-led protests quickly escalated, with participants blocking major roads, clashing with security forces, and staging sit-ins at government offices. The government's response has been criticized for its severity. Security forces employed tear gas, rubber bullets, and, in certain instances, live ammunition to disperse crowds. These measures led to several fatalities and many injuries, fueling further anger and prompting calls from citizens and activists for immediate government accountability. President Rajoelina, in a televised address, expressed regret for the loss of life and acknowledged public anger over the government's perceived ineffectiveness. However, he maintained his position, insisting that while the government would be restructured, he would not step down. The announcement of the government's dissolution marks the beginning of a transition period. President Rajoelina indicated that a new government formation process would commence immediately, with proposals for a new prime minister to be considered within 3 days. Analysts suggest that this move is intended to placate public anger while maintaining continuity in executive leadership. The unrest has also triggered significant property damage. Reports indicate that supermarkets, appliance stores, and banks were looted or vandalized in several districts of Antananarivo. In addition, private residences belonging to political figures were attacked. In response, authorities imposed a dusk-to-dawn curfew in major cities to curb further violence and restore public order. Madagascar, one of the world's poorest countries, faces chronic economic and social challenges. According to estimates, roughly 75% of the population lives below the poverty line. Persistent unemployment, inadequate public services, and political instability have contributed to widespread dissatisfaction, particularly among younger citizens who make up a significant portion of the population. Experts view the protests and government dissolution as a reflection of deeper systemic issues in Madagascar. While the move to restructure the government may temporarily ease tensions, long-term solutions will require comprehensive reforms addressing infrastructure, public services, and economic development. Failure to implement meaningful changes could result in renewed unrest, further destabilizing the nation. As the situation develops, observers are closely monitoring the government's next steps. The formation of a new administration, its ability to address public grievances, and the restoration of security and order will be critical in determining Madagascar's political trajectory. The international community is also paying attention, with calls for dialogue, humanitarian assistance, and respect for human rights becoming increasingly prominent. The events of September 2025 serve as a stark reminder of the power of youth activism and the urgency of responsive governance. Madagascar now faces a crucial period where decisions made in the coming weeks could either pave the way for political stabilization and reforms or exacerbate social tensions and unrest.